What is going on, guys? We're coming back with progression meetings here. Going solo this time, but we're going to try and start producing these one time a month again. Had some pretty good success or views on these, so we're going to start trying to put them out a little bit more. Been getting a little bit busier with work, so always a good thing, but figured you guys could learn a little bit from these and just kind of hear some of our input. So solo today, obviously, like I said. So I'm going to share the screen here. All right. So today, guys, we're dealing with a client who's a little bit more of a health and wellness client. We're working on getting some of his aerobic metrics improved a little bit. Really likes machines, so we came up with a machine test for him. You can see the test here: 30-minute assault bike, 30-minute row for max calories. I actually think somebody from Train Think Tank had done something like 30, 30, 30 for max calories. So I think we kind of based that test off of that. So pretty similar to that. He has access to an assault bike and a rower. I think we started doing this during partially during quarantine. So this is the main structure that we were looking at for a layout for him. He had previously just kind of, it seemed like he needed a lot of just kind of base level aerobic work to get him better at this test. So we kind of came up with this progression here. You're basically doing 30 minutes worth of work, just slowly progressing into the paces that you're going to be hitting on the rower. So sorry, so maybe not, it wasn't necessarily aerobic that we were looking for. We were looking for holding a little bit higher paces for sustained efforts on some of the machines that he was working on. So this is the kind of the progression that we were looking at doing. So start out, so it just goes 5-5, 4-4, 3-3, 2-2, 1-1. Row, assault bike, alternating between those two. And then we're going to start off the progression at 100 cals less per hour than his 30-minute pace, and 50 watts less per hour, or 50 watts less than his average pace on the assault bike. And so what we did is the first week we progressed down to 90, left the assault bike the same, and just kind of progressed that down. We saw after the first week that he was actually handling this pretty well. So on the next week, we went to 80 cals, but then we started dropping a little bit quicker the next week. So 60 cals was the next one. Assault bike went down 10 watts. And then if you guys look down at the bottom here, we start creeping up into that 30-minute pace. So the goal was to keep him a little bit under, just kind of sustained durations on these machines for the time period. And then we're going to creep closer up to that 30-minute pace. So basically what ended up happening was we would go over the 30-minute pace, and then eventually he's holding 30-minute pace on the rower at the 5-minute mark, 30-minute pace on the assault bike at the 5-minute mark, and then it goes over his prescribed wattages and cals per hour as you move down the ladder. So eventually I think he was at 100 cals over for a minute and then 50 watts over for a minute. So kind of just like a reverse ladder that he was working with there, to give him a little bit more intensity on the machines, have him pull a little bit harder. So this ended up being about 30 minutes worth of work. So then at the end of his pieces, we would give him, or at the end of this 30-minute piece, we would give him a little bit longer, because obviously the duration of this is an hour in length. We would give him a little bit more work based off of what we were kind of seeing in the session. So this first one, we went 30 on, 30 off, assault bike row, 70-10 rest. We went 50 cals, a little bit faster than his 10-minute pace. These first couple of weeks, we kept him at a progression where he was going a little bit more intense. This next one was kind of just like this is probably close to his 30-minute pace. The these are just paces we felt he could hit a little bit easier, or that he could handle, that were going to create some fatigue but not tip him over the edge. So we had 1K row, 135, Celt bike 3 minutes at 375, 300. So kind of like harder paces for him, but a little bit more kind of in like that shorter threshold range. One thing that we did do with him was like on Tuesdays. So this wasn't his only sessions. On Tuesdays, we had him doing mixed work. And then on Fridays, we had him doing like a pretty intense EMOM. And I think probably contributed to this a little bit. A lot of it was kind of like you would do a movement. The EMOM was you would do a movement, power cleans, burpees, something like that. And then you would get back on the machine and try and accumulate as many calories as you could. So, and then the Tuesdays were more like aerobic power. So we had him doing like 4 or 5 minute MRAPs, or four kind of workouts that were a little bit more aerobic power oriented. So kind of like some base building, touching some intensity on Saturdays, getting into a little bit more intense pieces over his 30-minute pace. And then just kind of like some intensity, fun-esque type stuff throughout the week, with a little bit shorter aerobic power work on Tuesday, and then just kind of some intense stuff on Friday. So he ended up getting this. So his first score was 879. If you guys see the mouse here, he got 879 on his first one, got 945 on his next one. So absolutely smashed this like out of the water. First cals on the assault bike were 425. Next time around, he got 437. So 12 cal improvement at roughly 63 RPM. So about a minute faster pace wise. He had actually texted me and asked me if he could game it a little bit and go a little bit slower on the assault bike the first time around. I told him, no, you have to hold same pace. So 63 RPMs, roughly same pace. Picked it up a little bit though. It was probably a little over a minute or a little under a minute on the assault bike. The row is where he really kind of made his money on this one. So 454 on his first one, over 500 on his next one. So absolutely like crushed this 54 calories improvement. So the row is kind of where he made his money on this one. So huge improvement on this. I think a lot of it had to do with this progression here. It is a longer progression. I think it was about a 10-week progression. Dropping calories from 100 all the way to 100 over on the 1 minute on, 1 minute off. So getting pretty lengthy in a progression there, and then throwing in some kind of like mixed energy system work at the bottom there to kind of round out his 60-minute length in session. Really helped him get there. So I would actually probably use this progression for competitive CrossFitters that are looking to build a little bit more aerobic sustainability and need a little bit more intensity on their machines. I might leave out the mixed energy system work with the CrossFitters, just because they don't, unless you're going to the games, like you don't have to hold the 30-minute paces, the 60-minute paces. So you're probably looking at 30 minutes for threshold work is a little bit more sustainable for CrossFitters, especially if they're a little bit newer in the sport. This guy just had a goal of going out to 60 minutes. So we might just keep this progression, especially a lot of it, some of it would depend on what stage in the game the CrossFitter is at. And if they can hold kind of linear progressions like this. So there is always that option to throw in some more work if they're not after the session, if they're not necessarily feeling it or if they're feeling like they can handle more in the session. So, but yeah, overall pretty successful progression. Had smashed the score. So probably look at doing this with some CrossFitters looking to build kind of that sustainability on the rower if they need. Could potentially, if they're a little bit newer to machines, give them this. Maybe if they're kind of in the mid-range of a CrossFitter and kind of haven't done a lot of aerobic work, this would be a good progression for them to hit. not really sure. Elite level, we might be looking at changing things up a little bit just because they've probably had a stimulus like this before. Probably don't need to run a progression like this uh, as long for an elite level CrossFitter, but kind of that beginner mid-level range. They're looking to like build some capacity on the machines. This might be a good progression for them to use. So, but yeah, let us know if you guys have any questions on this. If you want to see the full progression, I think we did get into some other kind of like mixed energy system work down here at the bottom. If you guys want to see that, just let us know and we can send that over, or chat a little bit more about it. If you guys have any input on what you think might make this a little bit better, how this might make this a little bit better, or if you guys kind of have a different idea of how this works in the body and how it creates adaptation, we'd love to hear it. Always looking to learn. So yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully this helps out.